The gentleman yields back. I now recognize the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Carter, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here. In 2021, President Biden issued Executive Order 14028, which imposed a host of new mandates on agencies to strengthen the federal government's cybersecurity. One positive result of this order was the deployment of endpoint detection and response technologies across federal agencies as a part of the CDM program. With that executive order now already 2 years old, the technological environment continues to evolve with advances that constantly test our defenses. For all of the witnesses, as we seek to constantly evolve the CDM program to stay ahead of our adversaries, what technologies and cyber defense practices do you think are most urgently needed to be deployed at federal agencies based on today's ever-moving threat?
Thank you, Congressman. For Armis, we view the only way for pure protection across all agencies is ubiquity, and that view to have 100% visibility into all assets, whether those assets be IT, OT, IoT, or IOMT. It is critical that you have visibility into the unmanaged devices within an environment in order to provide that holistic view. Otherwise, you're at risk of adversaries getting one step ahead of the game and being able to infiltrate a network.
Thank you.
I agree with the answer, and I would say, at least with my experience on the CDM program, that yes, historically the focus has been on IT managed assets. They have done some work associated with operational technology, mobile assets, cloud assets, and I think that needs to be prioritized and accelerated to be able to get that complete view that my colleague's referencing.
I think one aspect that is worth saying is when you look at endpoint protection, there's some really good stuff. We use theirs and love it. But what you want to do is instrument a network in such a way that how do you know when you've been blindsided? And so I think, if you look at IoT devices, there's not going to be endpoint software, on a watch or on a firmware device or a lot of IoT things, door alarms, so on. So you're going to have network-based things that look to see if those are acting in ways they shouldn't. So you want a layered defense. People talk about that all the time, but when it comes to implementing it, we do sort of light beer when you're ready for full-bodied. And so we need to really look at more defense in depth with a lot more visibility.
Thank you. I'd say there's still some progress that can be made within the EDR program itself by way of deploying it out to cloud environments, mobile devices, and the like, just to make sure that you have the same level of visibility control on those types of assets. And then beyond that, really thinking about a concept that the industry calls extended detection and response, which is the same idea of bringing that visibility and control out to other parts of the network security stack. So making sure that you can get integrated workflows with data not just from the endpoint, but also from the network or from the perimeter, or being able to integrate logs, being able to integrate threat intelligence and similar things, then giving people more coherent set of a control plane for being able to do the work that they do from a defensive standpoint.
Mr. Sheldon, in your earlier testimony, you discussed the need for CISA's proposed cyber analytics and data systems to be built to scale. I agree on the need to ensure that CADS has the capacity to process significant increases in data we can expect CISA to receive in the upcoming years. How can CISA ensure that it deploys the new program in a way that is flexible enough to handle future demands?
Thank you, Congressman. This, I think, is probably one of the more interesting questions that CISA has to grapple with today. I think an interesting stress test for whatever plans they've developed for the CADS program is to think about, would this work if we needed to, whatever our sort of best guess is or our assumption about how much data we need to be able to process in that environment, would it be able to handle twice that? And then would it be able to handle twice that again? And doing some of those sort of stress tests would I think position them well to understand whether they're developing architectures that can scale to the level that they will need to if they're doing more types of data-intensive programs across the federal government. For our case, we have 2 trillion events per day or more that we stream up to our cloud. So that's the type of big data that
I got 3 seconds. Let me just cut you off for a second. I want to ask Mr. Gumble, given where we are and the threat as they evolve and the pace at which technology is moving, if you had a silver bullet that you can use with this committee or with federal government, what would that be to make sure that we are staying abreast and ahead of the bad actors?
I want to repeat this again, but I do believe the silver bullet is to have end-to-end security for visibility for all of your assets. That's the only way to get full visibility and protection across your enterprise. And to take a step further is once you can identify those assets, understand where those vulnerabilities lie, and then take action upon those vulnerabilities to protect your environment holistically.
How complex is it to do that, and how long does it take?
It is not that complex at all. We have organizations that at scale have rolled out tens of millions of endpoints in weeks, and this is something that we can partner with the federal government to achieve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.